Romans 13 verses 8 to 10. The debt of love, fulfilling the law in Christ. In Romans 13, Paul has already shown us how the gospel reshapes our view of civil authority, calling us to submit, to honor, to pay what is due. But now, as he moves deeper, his focus turns inward, from duties of the hand to debts of the heart. In verses 8 through 10, Paul issues a powerful summons. Owe no one anything, except to love one another. This is no call to moral bookkeeping or stoic obedience. It is a reorientation of the soul. The Christian life is not weighed down by countless obligations. It is anchored in a single, ongoing, life-giving one, love. And through this lens, Paul invites us to see the believer's calling in three distinct but interwoven movements: perpetual payment, lawful love, and harmless heartbeat. Together, they reveal that our only enduring debt is love, and that love alone is the fulfillment of the law. First, perpetual payment, the only debt worth owing. Paul begins with a disruptive command: owe no one anything, except to love one another. Romans 13 verse 8. At first glance, it feels financial, like a call to debt-free living. But his concern isn't with credit cards or lending rates. His concern is with the heart's posture. In a world where we track debts, financial, emotional, even moral, Paul wipes the ledger clean. Only one entry remains: love. The Greek structure here is emphatic. The double negative, meidene meiden, forms an absolute prohibition: owe nothing to no one, except love. And the verb, orphelete, is a present imperative, a command in continuous time. This debt is not something we can settle and walk away from. It is perpetual, ongoing, a rhythm that never ends. Lexical scholars like Kittel and Thayer highlight the phrase, tor agapan, the loving, as a habitual lifestyle. It's not a checkbox on a moral list. It is the very breath of gospel-shaped living. Love becomes the currency of the kingdom, the ongoing transaction of grace in motion. Haldane insists that Paul is not drawing us into law-keeping slavery, but into redemptive relationship. Calvin paints the image vividly. The Christian is a vine, and love its branches, wrapping around Christ, reaching toward neighbor, bearing fruit in every direction. This debt is not to systems, but to souls, not to abstract duties, but to real persons, not to performance, but to presence. As Moo observes, it is not burdensome, it is blessed liberty. Love flows not from guilt, but from grace, not from pressure, but from joy. We are not paying coins to a rule book. We are pouring out mercy upon image bearers. Second, lawful love, the real measure of obedience. Paul continues, for the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Romans 13 verse 8b-9. The little word, gar, for, acts like a thread, weaving love and law together. It shows that true love doesn't abolish God's commands, it animates them. Here, Paul's use of agape is significant. Unlike philia, friendship, or storge, familial affection, agape describes self-giving, covenantal love. It is love rooted in God's very being, a love that lays itself down, that sacrifices, that serves even when it costs. The verb, pepleroken, has fulfilled, is in the perfect tense. As Cranfield explains, it describes an action completed with lasting effect. Love doesn't just temporarily satisfy the law. It leaves a permanent imprint of righteousness. But Paul isn't offering us theological abstraction. He grounds it in the commandments. No adultery, no murder, no theft, no coveting. He draws directly from the Decalogue. These aren't restrictions for the rigid. They are expressions of what love looks like when it touches the ground. Hodge is right to say they are not weights to carry, but windows into what love protects. And then, quoting Leviticus 19 verse 18, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Paul roots his vision not just in gospel grace, but in the ethical core of the Old Testament. Bruce and Cranfield both note, this is the very same verse Christ highlighted when asked about the greatest commandment. The law, at its core, is not about control, it is about communion. Love is not the antithesis of the law, it is its pulse. Where law alone can build fences, love builds bridges. Where commandments may restrain evil, love releases life. Christian obedience, then, is not measured by rule-keeping, but by love that overflows. Third, harmless heartbeat, love that does no harm. Paul ends this section with a potent summary. Love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. Romans 13 verse 10. The verb, uk ergezetai, does not work, evil, is active. Love is not defined merely by what it avoids, but by what it produces. It doesn't merely refrain from harm. It actively seeks the good. This is not a passive kindness. It is a holy refusal to weaponize words, to manipulate, to neglect, to wound. It is a shaping river of grace, watering the soil of relationships, cleansing the wounds of offense, and feeding the hungry with dignity and truth. Thielman notes that this isn't about what love is prohibited from doing, but about what love is compelled to pursue. Love is not content with innocence. It longs for flourishing. Schreiner, Longenecker, and Robertson all emphasize that Paul's logic flows from the inside out. Real love begins in the affections, not just the actions. It transforms the motives, not just the movements. Echoing Christ's Sermon on the Mount. Obedience becomes warm, not cold. Personal, not perfunctory. John Murray reminds us that this is not about moral striving, but about mercies received. We do not love to earn grace. We love because we have received it. And when grace floods the heart, it overflows in actions that protect, preserve, and promote the well-being of others. William Hendrickson offers a tender metaphor. Love is a hedge of protection, a guard around our neighbor's worth. It is not merely about abstaining from sin. It is about choosing life. Love becomes a cradle, not a courtroom. A shelter, not a scale. Reflections for today. There is a kind of bondage we barely notice, when our hearts are tethered to guilt, to duty, to performance. But Paul's call to owe no one anything, except to love, speaks not to our wallets, but to our souls. What debts are you still trying to pay? Recognition, approval, control. When love begins to feel heavy, it may be that we're serving the wrong master. And what of obedience? Do we keep God's commands like accountants, measuring compliance, or like children, eager to please a loving father? When love leads, obedience becomes instinct. You don't count how many times you kiss your child. You just love them. Is your service to others driven by duty or by delight? But love also wounds before it heals. It does no harm, but it may still confront. It does not coddle lies or conceal injustice. It speaks when silence is easier. So ask, have your words this week been bridges or walls? Has your silence preserved peace or protected pride? True love doesn't just avoid hurting others, it absorbs their pain. And this vision extends to the church. We are not a network of moral calculators. We are a communion of love debtors, not held together by rules, but by grace. In an age of outrage and isolation, this love is revolutionary. Let your conscience find rest not in what you've achieved, but in whom you've loved. Let love be your breath, your beat, your rhythm, the ongoing payment of a heart set free. Conclusion. In these verses, Paul lays before us the rhythm of redeemed living. The law is no longer our jailer. It has become a melody, sung in the key of love. We are not bound by obligation. We are freed into an economy of grace. This love isn't born of pressure, but of promise. It doesn't drain us, it empowers us. Where law once demanded, love now delights. Where guilt once loomed, grace now dances. So in the ordinary places, in grocery lines and late-night thoughts, in whispered prayers and public tensions, ask yourself, am I living out my true debt? Is my obedience shaped by law or by love? Let the words of Romans 13 verses 8 to 10 shape your soul. Love first. Love fully. Love fearlessly. For in doing so, you fulfill the law, not with chains, but with joy. And in this, the gospel breathes, not only through what you believe, but through how you love.